This afternoon, I'd like to tell you how we are using crowdsourced data to document biodiversity in natural areas. Here's a brief outline of our talk. The program that we've been using to gather these data is iNaturalist, so I would like to briefly describe that program to you. iNaturalist is a program that allows people to document and share their observations of organisms. It's sponsored by the California Academy of Sciences and the National Geographic Society, and it uses mobile devices and a website to document those observations. And they can consist of photographs, sound recordings, geographic coordinates, identifications, and comments. One of the features that we really like about iNaturalist is that we can create our own projects. And those projects can be based in a variety of ways, including taxonomically based or place-based or event-based. Citizen science or community science data and crowdsourced data are becoming very important. There's literally hundreds of millions of observations now. iNaturalist now has over 58 million observations of 320,000 species by almost 1.5 million observers. In addition to generating a lot of useful data, this also helps involve the public in natural history. There are problems with accessing and using these data. There's a large amount of them that can be overwhelming. The quality has to be assessed, and the data need to be summarized to be useful. The goal of our project is to demonstrate an approach to facilitating access to these data for organizations that are managing natural areas. So we've broken this down into several steps. The first is selecting a natural area of interest, then setting up an iNaturalist project on their website, filtering and downloading the observations, sorting them taxonomically, confirming or providing identifications, and then summarizing them taxonomically, temporally, and spatially. And then finally putting that all into a report for the managing organization. So we have selected several areas in Southeast Idaho, working with different management organizations or managing organizations. The example that I would like to use here is from the Edson-Fichter Natural Area in Pocatello, Idaho, and this is managed by the Idaho Department of Fish and Game. And one of the things you need to do is define the boundaries of a place-based project. That place may already be named, and there may be a boundary already established in iNaturalist, or you can manually draw one, or draw one on their website, or you can import a GIS file with the boundary. And then you need to set a variety of project criteria like the dates and the users and the taxa and so forth. Set up the kind of information that you want to gather. We've used, or we have a variety of observers that are contributing to our project, the public at large. We've done a lot of recruitment events. We've worked with teachers and teacher workshops and with our students. And then, like, for example, high school students have gotten involved in BioBlitzes. The Idaho Master Naturalist Group has contributed, I think, maybe the majority or certainly many of the observations in this project. Nature photographies, agency personnel, other scientists have also contributed. The observations themselves, the data that are used to confirm the observation are either photographs or sound recordings. And the photographs, most of them are taken with smartphones, but regular cameras, digital files can be uploaded via the website. And in fact, for power users, that's actually the most efficient way to do it. This is Tony Iwani. He's the community outreach coordinator for the iNaturalist program. And he came up and visited us several years ago. We went over to Craters of the Moon, and he showed up his setup using a mirrorless camera, and he has a GPS unit that's creating a log file here in his pack, and then he can later upload those things. And he was able to, like, in a couple hours, generate over 100 observations of invertebrates there. Another exciting area would be the use of trail cams, but we have not done that yet. For animals that you can't see or get a photograph of, or it's at nighttime, then sound recordings are a very useful way of documenting it. And you can use the smartphone itself or a dedicated recorder. And we also want to start using these sound recorders, these sound meters. And we think that'll be another good way to get observations in. You can view these observations directly in the project on the iNaturalist website, and it'll give you a variety of statistics like the number of observations, the number of species, the number of observers, and the number of identifiers. And it also ranks things by who's got the most observations, who's seen the most species, and what the most observed species are. Importantly, it also categorizes observations by whether they meet the criteria that you set and they've been confirmed by at least one other person. These here are called needs ID. They need confirmation or they need an identification, but they have the necessary requirements. And then there are some that don't meet the requirements for the project. You can go in and create a query in iNaturalist and decide, what are the characteristics, the taxonomy, the time, the, where, the quality, grade, and so forth. And you can then preview that, choose the associated data that you want to come along with it, create an export, and that creates a file that can be downloaded and then can be imported into a spreadsheet. And so you could, for example, just do research grade, or you could bring them all in and check them yourself. We will bring things in with the different taxonomic levels so that we can sort them taxonomically to summarize what we have. You can confirm or provide observation identifications if you want to be more rigorous than just using the research grade observations. You can highlight the observation. You can click on the URL that will take you to the observation, the photograph, and the map and the details about it. Some of the things we can confirm ourselves, others we may need to confer with experts, which we're in a good situation because we have a biological sciences department and a Museum of Natural History. You should also check that the coordinates and the dates make sense as well. Then the data can be summarized taxonomically. So here, for example, is a breakdown by the different major taxa. You can see most of the observations were for plants, and for the animals, most of them were for birds. of the plants, about 25% of the observations were introduced species. So I think for introduced invasive species, this could be a helpful set of information for agencies. We summarized the data temporally, looking at the number of observations per year. That's generally been going up, and although this project we didn't include that, that it did increase in 2020. And we see more observations in the spring and especially the fall. That might be related to some classroom activities, particularly for the botany classes. And then you can also look at the data spatially. In a small area like this, and given the resolution of the data, we haven't done much with it with spatially. One major problem with the iNaturalist data I need to point out is that for threatened, endangered, and vulnerable species, so like the S1 to S3 categories, those for protection, those coordinates are obscured and placed within like a 22-kilometer grid. And so unless you have permission from the observer to see the precise coordinates, those observations, which really are the ones we probably care most about, we can't see. So that's a major problem. Another thing we'd like to investigate, we haven't done this yet, but is summarizing by user type. There are user profiles in there, and if the people will provide that information, then we could characterize the people that are submitting the observations. So we've been thinking about in our recruiting to ask people to fill their user profiles out, and I'd say how they would classify themselves, what their organizational affiliation is, and which taxa they may feel that they're confident in identifying. Finally, we prepare a report for the managing organization, and we are just in the process of finishing up this first one here, and hopefully that will prove to be helpful to Idaho Fish and Game. We have a variety of other projects in Southeast Idaho involving a variety of organizations, and we'll see how feasible this is and if these agencies feel that these reports are useful to them. I'd like to acknowledge a number of people and organizations that have helped with this project. First off, all the iNaturalist observers that have contributed their observations. Secondly, the ISU Career Path Internship Program through the Department of Biological Sciences and the Idaho Museum of Natural History. We received a small grant from the ISU Center for Ecological Research and Education. Maria Pascharetti and Jason Beck, who are habitat biologists for Idaho Fish and Game, have been very helpful. And then the members of the ISU Herpetology Lab have helped in a variety of ways with these projects. And finally, I'd like to thank the people, the experts that have helped us with our identifications. So I look forward to trying to answer, hearing your comments and trying to answer your questions during the live session.